Hey guys, welcome back to another Raw Talks episode. I've been super busy, so I haven't really had time to film a proper episode this week, so thought I'd jump on and have a quick chat about sort of some life advice that I guess I would give my past self when I was in my 20s. Today is my 37th birthday, so I'm doing a lot of reflecting on my past and sort of where I've come from and where I'm at in life. And I just like to pass on some of the knowledge to the younger crew, who are potentially going down a similar path. So between 20 and 30, in my opinion, there's a few different things happening in your life. One, you are trying to figure out who you are, kind of thing, what you're all about, the things you like, the things you don't like, and just discovering like who you are as a person. Whether it comes through like traveling or different life experiences or whatever you may be doing, that period of life between 20 and 30 really is like very formative in becoming who you are through whatever experiences you have. And I mean, in the photography sense, it was about my mid-20s when I sort of really got interested in it and started going at it, like showing a lot of interest and sort of realizing that it's for me. So I guess on that front, on the photography side, it's that time and that age bracket where, and it does happen earlier for a lot of people too, but if photography is for you, you will know it and you won't hesitate to do it and grow it and get better at it and sort of just keep pursuing it. A lot of people want to have it, dabble with it and try it and see what comes of it. And, for most people, it's not for them. They think they see the glamorous life, or glamorous, that photographers can live and sort of want to have that, but they soon realize it's not for them. Like I've said in other videos, there's a certain percentage of people who are just born to be photographers for a living, and a lot of people find out that it's not for them, and then some who pursue it find out it is for them, and they will keep pursuing it naturally without hesitation, like I did. So in the photography sense, that stage of life, again, it can happen earlier for some people, is real formative in that you sort of, I guess you grow your skills, and that can take a short amount of time or a long amount of time, just depends how much you put into it. But the business side of things, you've really got to tighten that up as you get through that time period, that age period, sort of into your 30s when life gets a bit more serious, and like you have a lot more responsibilities and stuff, and you're already pursuing something that's sort of off the beaten path, career-wise or work-wise, because it's not a regular paycheck like a normal 9-to-5 job. It's sort of, you're pursuing you're an entrepreneur in a sense. You're pursuing a business and being self-employed. So I suppose the advice for anybody in that age bracket who is going down the photography route or thinks they want to is the biggest thing is you will know if it's for you or not. If it's for you, you won't have to think about it. You love shooting, you will get out there and shoot, because as I've said in other videos, this shit doesn't happen overnight. You have to put, 5-10 years into your craft. Again, the skill side of it might come quick. You might be naturally talented and within a year or two you're shooting pro level work, nailing it. But all the other stuff behind the scenes, the business stuff, the growing your name, growing your clientele, growing your what people see in you, sort of your image as a professional photographer, that all takes time, years and years of shooting, and like I said, working for different clients and just growing it and growing it and growing it. It's like with art, like some artists' work isn't worth anything until even after they die, like you've got to put in a lot of time before you sort of can build your worth as a photographer, and that's where it starts, at that stage where you realize it's for you and you start on that grind of growing your skill set to then turn it into a career or a job down the track. You've really got to look long term. When you're in your 20s, you want everything like this, now. I want it to happen. You feel the pressure of society for you to be something and do something. So when you pursue something new, you want it to all come and you want to prove to people and all this, there's a lot of ego involved when you're in your 20s. The best thing you can do is not have an ego. An ego death is the most important thing a human can go through, because then you don't care about all the external stuff putting pressure on you. So, and that's the thing about people passing advice down to younger crew. We've all been through it. That's why we do it, because we know exactly what it feels like to be there. So you can't let that society pressure get to you. If you're pursuing something like photography, you've just got to make your mind up, set goals, and just work towards them year after year after year. Again, it might take you 1 year, it might take you 10. It just depends how much you put into it. It's how much you're going to get out, sort of thing. So on to the next subject of just general life advice. Kind of on that one as well, this is a bit more general. When you're in your 20s, it's such a, I don't know what the word is. It's such a weird time because, like I said, like so many people in their 20s just feel lost. They feel lost in life because A, they haven't figured out who they are yet, so they don't really know themselves. And then like there's all these society pressures to like do, know what you're going to do and know where you're going to go and what your future goals are. And depending on the type of parents you have, sometimes there's parental pressures as well. When in reality, the way I see it is your 20s are for exactly that. They're for experiencing life and figuring out who you are as a person and, doing the deep inner work to try and figure out all that stuff. Like, who am I? What am I about? What are my morals? What type of person I am? I think that's so important. When I see people in their like early 20s jumping into the, your regular life of like having a house and kids and a marriage and all this shit when you're in your early, like that's insane to me because that's, like that stage of life is so important for self-growth is what you'd call it. You see all those couples that go in early, and yes, some of them are meant to be and they last perfectly fine, but that early 20s stage, early to mid 20s is like a major growth point in your life when you start to, again, like I said, figure out who you are. And, a lot of relationships that start young end at that stage because you either grow together or you grow apart. And most of the time people grow apart, sadly. But it's all because you're trying to do it all too young. Your 20s need to be for experiencing life, experiencing like, if it's travel or if it's whatever you want to do. I highly encourage everybody to travel because seeing different countries and different perspectives on how hard other people have it can change you, can change you forever. But if you don't have those experiences, then you don't get that perspective. So I always encourage people in their 20s to go and travel and see the world and see different cultures and the way people live and, how other countries, if you're from like a Western country, can live perfectly happily with nothing in their life. Whereas we obsess over all this bullshit in the Western countries, all this materialistic crap. But that's what I mean. That changes you. So that's another thing that I do encourage is like, when you come from being like a teenager into your 20s, you think you're growing. You think like, man, like I'm a grown up now. You're not. You're just a kid. Like if you're in your early 20s, you're still just a kid. You've got a lot of life living to do because then once you get to like my age now or in my late 30s, I look back on myself when I was in my early 20s thinking like, man, I was just such a stupid kid, just like I probably will when I'm double this age. I'll look back on this age and think I'm the same. It's just the more living you do, the more life experience you get, the more wisdom you gain, I suppose, and you look back on yourself and think, man, I was such a dipshit. But the biggest thing I want to get across in this video is, if you're in that stage of life, I'm all for like setting up for the future. I mean, I'm just going off my experience because I just like ticked off my whole 20s, like we traveled. Like I met my wife in my mid 20s, and for the second half of my 20s we traveled and did all the travel life stuff and everything. And then we had our first kid when I was 29 and she was 30 and I'm now 37. So like I just want to reiterate the fact that don't put too much pressure on yourself when you're at that age, because trust me, you're just young. Like I said, I see these people in their early 20s trying to like jump into all this big life stuff when they haven't even lived. They haven't experienced life and traveled and done all the cool shit. They're just jumping into a rut straight away of like the usual shit, like fucking pay a mortgage and start having kids and all that. And this stage of life is great. That's where I'm at now, at this age, it's great. I love it because it comes with age. You know, as you get older, you do just want to stay home. You have no interest in partying and doing, you know, going out, and like you just want your own little space with your family to do the things that you want to do. You don't care for any of that external stuff that you care about in your 20s. And I did a lot of that in my 20s. I got a lot of the partying out of my system, you know, which I also think is important. But I feel like there's stages of life, there's ages and different stages of life that suit the age that you're at and sort of the maturity level you're at. And I do really believe that in your 20s, it's a discovery period of figuring out sort of you and your life. And sadly, like I said, societal pressures can push people in their 20 to 30 year old age group down a path that maybe wasn't the right one, you know, when you could have been pursuing something like photography, and then once you get to my age, you live a completely different life than what you would have been living if you'd followed a different path in your 20s. It's hard to articulate, I guess, just thinking like the advice I would give to myself at that stage of life. You know, it's the same with money. Like I was financially, I made a lot in my 20s, and what did I do with it? You know, like, yes, obviously early on, like after a certain age, I reinvested some into photography, into what I'm doing now. But in my early 20s, it was just gone. You know, I just blew it. Whereas these days, you know, from about 30 onwards, especially once you start having children, you have to live for someone else, so your priorities change. You know, you can't be stupid with money anymore because you've got these little people that you have to look after and feed and clothe and house, and, you know, all the costs that come with that, and you've got to be sensible. But yeah, in your 20s, you're young, wild and free. And on the photography side, if you are pursuing photography in your 20s and you have opportunities to travel for it, like if you've got to a point where you have travel opportunities to go and work, take all of them, take everything you can get. Same with any shooting opportunity. If someone hits you up and says, hey, you want to come out and shoot this? You know, if it's not paid or whatever, if you're building your portfolio, no matter what stage you're at, just say yes, because you've got nothing. If you don't have kids or anything, there's no big life responsibilities holding you back. The amount of things I've said no to in the last 5 years for that reason, because my priorities are my children and being at home, there's a lot of opportunities there I've missed because I have prioritized that instead of travel, because I don't want to be away from home. Now my kids are 7.5 and 4, so I'm sort of at the other end where I can travel more, and it's fine because they're not babies. But when they were babies, I said no to everything because I didn't want to travel. I wanted to, my whole goal of being a parent was, you know, be there to tuck them into bed every single night, and I've done that. So basically you've just got to, I guess, analyze where you're at. Again, this is kind of general and like photography based, but you've really just got to analyze where you're at, and without comparing to others too much, sort of just, you know, really think about what you want out of life and where you want to be in like 10 years time. You know, if you're in your mid 20s, look to and say, by the time I'm 35, this is what I want to do. This is exactly what I did with photography. You know, I went down that path and I was like, this is what I want to do for a job. I love this shit more than anything, and I would happily do it for nothing. You know, this was even before I got paid. And many, many years ago, I set the goal of, you know, I want to make photography my full-time living, my full-time job. I think it was by the time I was 35. And I probably set this goal, you know, in my late 20s, or whenever it was. It was before I was even getting, I don't even know if I was getting paid for my work at that point. But I remember setting that goal and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I achieved it a year earlier than I had planned, which was awesome. It was like, sweet. Because I wasn't like grinding either. I wasn't like hustling for work. I was just sort of kept growing my skills and taking what came. And it naturally just grew to that point. But I set that goal a long way out from when I wanted it to happen for that reason. And and it came to fruition, and you know, now I've been doing that for however many years now, and in other words, like I've always done the photography thing, but not having to have other jobs or other work on the side to sustain it, sort of thing. But the main key was I had the foresight to look ahead in my life and go, this is the type of lifestyle I want to live, and this is what I want to do for a career and for a living. And included in that was also being there for my kids, like I said, every night, and full-time parenting as well, and all the other things that life throws at you along the way. But you've got to have the foresight to find something that you love and make a goal for the future down the track and be like, this is what I'm going to do. Pardon me. Because I knew even then that it was, for me, I wanted to be a photographer. That was my dream, and I made it happen. But if I had gone down a different path in life, I could still be sitting here and just having a pipe dream of wanting to be a photographer, and it never happened because I went down a different road and took a different opportunity. Whatever. One little decision can change your whole direction in life or your whole life. So I guess the main thing I want to get across here, I should probably wrap this up because I'm just talking, but the main thing is, like, if you're in your 20s to 30s, don't stress too much about all the big life stuff, that for whatever reason people's parents and society in general put pressure on everybody. 20 to 30, you just figure out who you are and like what you want out of life and what you want to do, because that's what the building blocks to then, the next 15 years of your life or more is what you're going to be doing and sort of where you're going to be spending your time. But like I said, if you don't lay those building blocks down initially and actually have some consistency and keep going, keep pursuing that thing, whether it's photography or whatever it may be, then it may never happen, and you may look back on your life with regret. Because I'm telling you, you think you're all grown, you're 21, you're 22, whatever, your mid-20s, you're like, yeah, I'm a grown. You're not. You're just a kid. And I'm coming up on 40, and I'm like, man, wasn't I like 21 not long ago? What happened? And now, married with 2 children, and which again is great. This is exactly what I wanted out of life. But if you're in that age bracket, just take this advice and do some internal thinking or growth and sort of set your path to what you want to do and where you want to go. Because it's so easy to go down the wrong path in life and just be miserable. I'm not saying that just having a regular job is that, but generally if you're pursuing photography or anything in the creative world, you're probably wired a bit differently, and you don't actually want anything to do with like a 9-to-5 job. You've probably got that entrepreneurial spirit inside you that needs to come out. It just needs to find a path to go down to manifest into something. So the advice I would give to myself back then would be like, don't fret like the big stuff. I was in a whole different country and mindset of life back then, but just live your life and figure out who you are. Once you get to like your 30s and when, like I said, kids and stuff come, that's when you can nail down all the important shit and start being better with money and all that stuff. Just go on a journey of like self-exploration in your 20s and just figure out what it is you want to do, because like I said, you're still young. Even now, 37, I feel old, but I know I'm still young. A 60-something-year-old still looks at me like I'm a young person. It's all just perspective. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap this up at 20 minutes. I'm at 19:15. So, yeah, just take all this advice from me as I sit here on my 37th birthday, and I'm living the dream, I'm living what I wanted to live however many years ago when I set these goals to do this shit and make it into what it is. And I love it, and I can't complain. But if I hadn't made that decision and gone down that path, what would I be doing? I don't know. Take this advice. Chase your goals. Remember, like in other videos I've said, make goals. Work towards them step by step. Break it down into smaller goals if you have to, no matter what that is, no matter whether it's photography or getting in shape more or money related, anything. Just write the goals down, slowly tick them off, and then look back on what you've achieved in 5 to 10 years and go, man, imagine if I didn't make that decision and commit to it, where would I be? Who knows? That's today's life advice here, sitting here on my birthday. 37 years ago I was born. Seems crazy, but yeah, 3 more years to 40. See how many videos we've done by then, eh? Like always, if you appreciate these random ramblings of life thoughts, give them a like and subscribe and do the notification thing and all the usual YouTube stuff. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. I appreciate all of you. Have a great day.